Hello and welcome to episode 21 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma, I'm your host. I'm coming to you from Ottawa here in Canada where I live with my family and our cat Yoda. And this is a podcast, as the title says, about knitting primarily. Sometimes there are other crafts. Today I gotta say it's a lot about knitting and haul because I just came back from Rhinebeck. So welcome to new viewers as well as returning viewers. Thank you for joining me today. Have I mentioned I am SELMAKNITS on Ravelry and Instagram, and we have a group on Ravelry called Little Big Knits where you can find the show notes and coupon codes from lovely makers, as well as pattern release information and so forth. The show notes are usually there and you can come in and introduce yourself, so come and join us. So I think I've said everything I need to say in the introduction. I'm going to be starting the episode today with the announcement of the 4,000 subscriber giveaway. So, and then after that I'll be going into finished objects, the announcement of a new cal, and some works in progress, and then I'll tell you a little bit about Rhinebeck and our trip to Rhinebeck for those of you who are interested in hearing about Rhinebeck. I know there can be a little bit of Rhinebeck fatigue perhaps from everybody who's talking about it who's been. So I'll leave that for the end, and if you're interested you can stick around to watch that portion of it as well. At the beginning of the podcast today you saw some lovely footage of the fall beginning and the continuation of the fall, and I'll be leaving the podcast with Rhinebeck footage. So there you go. So first thing to start with then is the subscriber giveaway, the 4,000 subscriber giveaway. You will recall from the last episode, if you watched, was the this yarn from URSO Yarns, who is a dyer here in Quebec, and she I had won these 4 skeins on Instagram, and I decided to use this for the giveaway. So there are 3 skeins in this lovely beige speckled colorway and 1 in this peony colorway. There were 294 entries, and number 241, which was PÄIVI HÖGLUND from Tampere in Finland. So congratulations to you. I know you were a first time watcher last time, so I hope you're watching again. And get in touch with me either on YouTube or through Ravelry so that I can get your address and send this lovely package to you. So congratulations. Thank you everybody for all your wonderful entries, all the places that people knit. Lots of people just knit everywhere. Lots of people knit at home. There were some wonderful travel stories in there as well. And thank you for all your lovely comments too. I didn't reply as I said I wouldn't because each comment is an entry. But I really enjoyed reading every single one of them, so thank you very much. I'm going to preface the rest of the podcast by saying that I've had a rather wicked cold. I thought I was going to cough up a lung while we were at Rhinebeck, and I have to say I actually thought I got a hernia. I think I didn't. I think it was just a little pulled muscle from all the coughing that I did, and I thought that, this part of my neck was going to bulge out. Anyway, I'm still coughing a bit, so I might have to take some little breaks. I've certainly got my tea here. And I have to tell you, I'm going to start by telling you about Gertie. This is Gertie the mug. She's a chicken. Can you see? There was some debate about whether she was a chicken or a rooster, but I'm saying she's a chicken. And I got her at Rhinebeck at, oh dear, I'm going to put the name of the shop here. I think it was POTTERY in one of the barns at Rhinebeck. And I have to say, I really love this person's pottery. She did a lot of things with animals, but just in a lovely, simple way, and they were really great. And I'm actually drinking tea that I bought in Woodstock at a shop called The Tea Shop. That's in Woodstock, and it's a lovely, lovely shop. I bought a tea called Cold Be Gone, so let's hope the tea is doing its work and the cold will be gone. So yeah, so I might be a little bit hoarse at times and I might need to take little breaks just because I do still have little coughing fits here and there. So, on with finished objects. I'm wearing one. I seem to have a lot of finished objects this time. I think it's partly because I was sort of finishing a couple of makes the last time we spoke, and then I made a couple of small items actually during the road trip. So I've ended up with 4 finished objects to share with you today. The first one, which I'm wearing, is my ranunculus, which I'm in love with. I'll just get up so you can see a little bit, and you can see that it is a sort of cropped sweater, and you can also see that my sleeves are a little short. I had a bit of a funny sleeve thing happen. I finished the sweater, I blocked it, and the sleeves came down to here, literally down to about here, and so I decided to shorten them a bit, and then somehow they ended up too short. So I kind of wonder if perhaps even after blocking, the sweater just retracts a little bit, and if I had waited a bit they would have been fine. So now I've ended up with short sleeves. I don't really want them 3/4 sleeves, I want them to be down here. So I am going to take out the little balls that I ended up accumulating from pulling back, and I'm going to knit back and make them more to sort of a real wrist length. Otherwise, this has worked out wonderfully. It's a lovely layering piece. I'm wearing it with a gray polka dotted blouse underneath. I really like it. I am going to wait and see how much wear I get out of this before completely deciding whether I make a second one. But I really am enjoying this. If you'll recall, I knit it out of one strand of lace weight mohair by fleece artist her Zambezi base in the mink colorway, and the other skein was a lace weight WOLLMEISE in the MAUSESCHWANCHEN colorway. And I'm really happy with the color. The only thing about this color is it's a little bit of a, you know, not the most easy color to pair with other things, so I'm realizing that it may not be the most wearable thing that I have in that sense, but I really enjoy wearing it. It's light weight and it provides a lot of warmth, which is exactly what I need because I'm always cold in the winter. So I suspect that I'll be wearing this a lot. If I am right, then I'll be making a second one in another color because it's just really great. I'd like one in light gray, which I'll tell you about a little later, or I don't know, some other color. But I think next time it would be very much about a color that would be easily matched with other things. So this is one FO. The other thing that I finished, and I'll plop a picture in here in a moment, is this wonderful sweater by HÖGLUND called All the Love. And here it is. This is a, oh, sorry, I just realized before I go on to that, the one other modification that I made, or the one modification that I made in the sweater, is that I did not do the twisted rib that it calls for. I just used a 1x1 rib. So anyway, just interjecting with that. So this sweater, All the Love, is, as I said, a sweater by HÖGLUND. It is in sort of it's supposed to be a very oversized, boxy type of sweater. But I decided that I did not necessarily want it to be that oversized. I worry about things being too oversized. So I ended up making the extra small. And what I did, because as I was knitting it, I liked the fit that it had on top, but I was a little bit concerned with how it was going to be when it got down, and I didn't want it to be hugging my thighs. I wanted it to be looser down there. So I actually did some increases, I think 3 times, so a total of like 12 stitches to add a couple of extra inches to the sweater in total. And I don't know if you can see that it goes out a little bit at the bottom there. And it actually is very flattering on. It makes it almost look like the lace is coming in a little bit. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. That's pretty much the only modification that I made. I made the small size, and then I added a little bit of that A-line shaping to it. So here's a picture of me wearing it. And you can see that it's just a really great everyday kind of sweater. And I really enjoyed the knit. It was a lovely construction. It was completely seamless. I was a little concerned about the colors of the 3 skeins, and I don't know if you can see, but there is, whoops, what's that? There's a fluff from some mohair. As you can see, there is a little bit of a difference. It becomes a bit grayer, which for some reason you can really see when it's wet. Maybe you can see it there too, I don't know, but it's okay. You don't really notice it when you're wearing it. This was knit out of the Julie ASSELIN LEIZU DK, which is a superwash wool with 10% silk in it. And as I said last time, I didn't really notice the silk as much in this as I have in the HIROSE weight. But I have to say I really am very pleased with the yarn, and it's just gonna be a great sweater. The first day I wore it, my husband was like, "Ooh, that looks fabulous." So I think it's just gonna be one of those sweaters that's cozy, comfy, and looks really nice. So that's my other finished object for the day. After that, since the last podcast, or probably around that, I was sent some yarn from BIJOU BASIN to try, which I was very happy to try, and it is basically the BIJOU BASIN Himalayan Summit. Can you see that? Which is a 50% yak down and 50% superfine merino wool. I was very excited to try this because I've never tried yak, and I've been wanting to try yak yarn. So I was sent the yarn, and I just immediately cast on. I wanted to make myself some fingerless gloves, and I found a pattern by Melissa SCHASCHWARY called Wood Sorrel, and I made a pair of fingerless gloves. Which I absolutely adore. I've been wearing them. I finished them on the way to Rhinebeck, and so I was actually able to wear them at Rhinebeck. I have to say that I really like the pattern. I'll start with the pattern. And Isla, I knew, was going to love the idea of these. So after I finished, there was enough in the ball for sure to make a second pair, and I made hers in plain. I made mine in the medium size, and I made Isla's in the small because I knew that just the stocking net would be a little looser than the stitch that's used in the original pattern, and they fit great as well. There they are. So I really, really enjoy this pattern, and although I have no sock mojo, I think I might have some fingerless mitten mojo, and I just want to make more of these. I'd like to make myself another pair that I could have at the office so that if I'm ever cold, I can just put them on and keep my hands warm. And they're actually really easy to wear when you're knitting, at least for me. And so I've actually been wearing them sometimes when I'm knitting. I have developed a slight repetitive strain in here. I don't know why, and it's recent, but when I wear the gloves, it totally warms my hand and doesn't bother me. So the pattern is awesome. I was very excited to try this yarn, as I said, and the yarn really didn't disappoint. It's a very warm yarn. I think it's got wonderful stitch definition, as you can see, and even in the stockinette. It's very easy to work with. It's very, very slightly splitty, but I would say very occasionally, maybe a couple of times during these two pairs, I ended up having to go back and fix a stitch a bit. But overall, I would not call it a splitty yarn. It's nicely spun. It's just, I have to be honest, it's a lovely, lovely yarn. BIJOU BASIN is a small, kind of family-owned company that is in Colorado, and they have their own yak. They don't have enough yak to make all their yarn, so they do import some yak, and I was just really happy to try this. Also met Carl, who's one of the owners at Rhinebeck, because they always have a stand. I think they're in Building C, and he was lovely to talk to. And you'll see a little bit of footage from their stand at the end of the podcast if you happen to stick around. So yeah, I really enjoyed this yarn. I would knit with it again. In fact, I thought about getting more, but I won't quite now. But yeah, very nice and really warm. Perfect for something like this, or a hat, or even a sweater of some sort. And this particular yarn is actually a fairly decent price point. Some of the yarns are more luxurious yarns and are definitely pricier, but this Himalayan Summit, as it's called, is actually quite a decent price point. And I still have a small ball left. It's nowhere around here. So it is a fingering weight, although I would call it more of a heavy fingering because there's not even 400 yards in a skein. And so it's definitely enough for 2 of these, or a hat and a pair of fingerless gloves or something like that. So anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity to Bijou Basin to let me try this yarn. And totally love this pattern. Not the last time I'm going to make it. So those are all of my FOs for today. I think that's enough, hey? And so the next thing I wanted to do before I tell you about the works in progress that I have, which are not very many, I wanted to share a little video that Kate of Hawthorn Cottage Craft Podcast and I recorded together. Kate came from Ireland and she was on the trip with us to Rhinebeck. So it's the second year that we've been able to do this together. And you may recall that Kate and I co-hosted the Garment Galore Cal last year, and we decided that we wanted to do it again. We really enjoyed doing it. There were a lot of finished objects and a lot of participation, so we thought, let's do it again. So we just recorded this little video to introduce it to you. And I'm going to plop this right in here, and I'll see you in a minute or so. Hello.
Hello.
We have decided to have a Garments Galore Cal again.
Yay! 1st of January.
1st of January until
31st of December.
31st of December. The whole year of 2019.
Ask Santa for yarn.
Ask Santa for yarn. Or stash dive.
Or stash dive.
Well,
Santa.
We're going to have different categories this year. We'll have the main category, right?
Yep.
And
knitting for men.
Oh, that was a suggestion in YouTube, and we thought it was an interesting one.
And my husband needs more than 1 pair of socks, so he's going to get a sweater sometime.
Yes, because a garment has to cover the torso, not accessories, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then our other category is going to be a yoked category.
And in the summer months, we will run a separate thread for summer garments.
That's right. And there'll be prizes at some point.
Yes. So if you're a maker and have something you'd like to showcase, we're more than willing to do that. For prizes.
And if you're thinking about sweaters, this is the place for you to be.
So you've got 2 months to think about what you want to knit. Make your list.
Pretty much, yeah. And it goes all year. So if you're not ready to start a sweater in January, but you are a little later, join in whenever. Yeah. And are whips welcome? We haven't discussed that. I think they should be.
I think so too. I think so too.
You okay with
as
that?
long as there's more than, slightly more than 50% left to do, not just a cast off.
Yeah. But I think it's a great way for people to finish up those. Maybe you actually didn't finish your project from the last Garment Galore Cal.
True.
You can finish it now.
Yeah.
All right.
See you then.
See you in 2019.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, I hope you'll join us on the knit along, and we'll see you in January for that. So, what have I been working on? Well, I have worked on Isla's crocheted blanket. I'm having a little bit of a moment of indecision, however. I'll just show you. I think last time I had only done perhaps I had only done one row of the turquoise on it, on this crocheted blanket that I'm making for Isla, and I have since put 3 rows of the granny stripe on it, or the granny square stitch on it. I'm now trying to figure out whether I should finish it with a picot edging or a scalloped edging, or maybe just do one more row of the granny stripe. And the reason I would do that is that because of the way the granny is constructed, I'm not 100% sure how to put on the scalloped edging. So I haven't tried, really. I've got a book that has the pattern for scalloped edging, so I'm going to give it a try. And then hopefully next time I podcast, I will be finished. So this was made with using minis of all different colors. I showed it to you guys last time. And then Sadness Garden Sisu was the cream color, and it is also the yarn that is for the turquoise here. It's just a really good standard merino nylon sock that is a very reasonable price point as well. So yeah, so I'm putting that on the edging, which you can see all around. And I think it's gonna be fun, actually. I'm looking forward to it. So let's see what ends up happening with that. I'll let you know next time. The other thing that I have been working on is a new cast on. I cast it on my way to Rhinebeck. And I gotta tell you, I'm just gonna show this bag very quickly, but I have a new BOOKHOU bag in my life that Kate so graciously gave to me when she came to stay. It's so darn gorgeous. I love it. And I am making the Nuuk, which is it's by Jonna Hietala. And it's a very sort of basic top-down sort of layering piece, a little bit like the Ranunculus. It's short-sleeved, it's a little bit cropped, it's meant to be a little bit wider. And I am making it out of yarn that I got at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival when I went a year and a half ago. So not this past March, but the previous March, that I bought that I just love. It's mohair. I have a mohair thing that's very obvious, isn't it? I've had a mohair thing since I was 14. And I made my first sweater, and I made my first sweater out of gray mohair, and I'm still completely drawn to gray mohair, which will become very evident by the end of this podcast. So this is yarn by, if it wasn't already evident, this is yarn by Whistlebear. It's their Whistlebear Yevering Bell, and it's their Aran weight. And this is the label. I actually ended up getting this yarn in the color that I'm using now and in their DK base in a kind of a light apple green. And this is yarn from Northumberland, spun in Yorkshire and dyed by hand. The goat and the sheep used in this yarn are reared in Northumberland by them, by Whistlebear, and it is 20% of their own mohair and 80% of their own mohair and 20% of their Wensleydale. So it's almost 100% mohair. And that is very rare to find, I have to tell you. You will almost never find 100% mohair. It's usually blended with other things, which is interesting. I've made one thing out of 100% mohair, and it is an unruly yarn to work with when it's 100%. However, it completely behaves after blocking. So I do hope that we will see more 100% mohair in the near future. It's usually mixed with silk, which creates a beautiful fiber, which is what was used in here. Here it was mixed with Wensleydale, which it's got a little bit of that mohair unruliness in here, which I'm really appreciating. I really like that because I know what it's going to do after. Sometimes it's mixed with polyamide or nylon or a bit of acrylic or something like that, but I do hope we'll see more 100%. So I started this on, did I start it on the way down to Rhinebeck? And I'm getting close to finishing the body. There's a bit of a weird pooling thing happening here, which I'm a little bit miffed about, but I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot when I'm actually wearing it. That's the back, and there's a little bit of pooling happening there too. And as I said, it's a very simple top-down raglan. It's meant to have short sleeves, and again, kind of a layering piece. And, you know, to wear with a blouse underneath, and it's just going to be so warm and wonderful. I can't wait. I'm really, really, really enjoying working on this. I have used 2 skeins so far, and I just started the 3rd skein, which is right there, and it's just this absolutely stunning chainmail gray. It's called chainmail, the colorway. And this was a luxury purchase at EYF, but I don't regret it. And if I ever go back to EYF, I could see myself buying more because I really, really, really love it. I probably couldn't have enough mohair in my stash. I've got a lot of it. So not a whole lot to say about this, except that it's just been a really lovely, easy knit. I think I'm knitting it on 5mm needles. Yep. And so it's going quickly, and I'm hoping to finish the body very soon, and then it's just the ribbing on the neckline and on the arms. And yeah, and I've got this wonderful progress creeper here. Let's see if I can show this to you. It's not going to do it too much light. It says hello, and it's sort of a pale pink, and I really like it, that my friend Sue gave me. So that is being held here in this wonderful BOOKHOU bag, which is huge. It's kind of like everybody wants the fringe supply bags, which are beautiful. This is very similar in size. It doesn't look so big, but it fits a lot. Like, there are 4 skeins of yarn in here, and it's just happy. So that is my other work in progress. I have not worked on my little garden. I haven't had this sort of the mental space, but I think once I finish that, I'm going to just sit down and work on that. I have a little fear that I'm procrastinating on the little garden, because it's a bit of a It requires some concentration, and the way the pattern is laid out, I'm going to have to do some cutting and pasting and putting things together to make it a bit more easy to read. So once I've finished that one, I'm going to focus on the little garden. So next time, I hope to be able to show you the progress on that. I don't think I'll be finished, but at least be able to show you the progress. And hopefully the next time I podcast, I'll be able to show you a finished crochet blanket. Isla's birthday is at the end of November, so I've got about 4 weeks to finish that thing. So that's really it for the knitting content. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our trip to Rhinebeck. Yeah, so thank you. If you're not interested in the next part of it, we'll see you next time. And if not, stick around and you're going to see more mohair. So I already told you that I got Gertie, and I don't know why her name is Gertie. It's Gertrude. I saw her, and that's what she became. This was one of my favorite purchases, I have to say, at Rhinebeck. I made a latte yesterday, and I was like, you're just perfect. And the reason I bought this mug was because another mug that I would use for lattes when I wanted one broke. And all of my other mugs are either small, little cups, like the little Moomin cups that I have, or they're kind of bigger. And I just don't drink a gigantic latte. So I wanted to buy one that was a little bit more in the mid-range. She's a tiny bit big, but only a tiny bit. And when I saw her that she had the right size, and it was just a lovely mug to hold. I love the handle on it. I'm very picky about pottery mugs. And she was perfect. So I was so happy. And as I mentioned earlier, this person's pottery was just really beautiful. All of them had animals, but all in this kind of like little subtle way, often on the end like that. And just a really nice weight, not too heavy, not too light. And I like just clean lines on them. She had lots of beautiful pieces, and I would have come home with more, but I didn't. So that was one thing. As I mentioned, Kate came from Ireland, and our friends Holly and Crystal, Kate and I ended up driving down. We rented an Airbnb house in Kingston, which is about a 10-minute drive to Rhinebeck. We left very, very early on Friday morning. Everybody else is a morning person. I'm not the most morning person, but I did okay. And so we got to Needles Up, which was an event being held in the Best Western in Kingston. And we did not end up going to to India Untangled. We only went to Needles Up. And it was a lovely sort of small event, but with some lovely, lovely makers there. And I wasn't sure actually that when I went to Rhinebeck I was going to come home with any yarn. I didn't come home with a crazy haul, but I did come home with a haul that makes me very happy, I have to say. So when we were at Needles Up, I ended up picking up from Legacy Fiber Arts, excuse me, I got a fluff in my nose. There's going to be a theme of mohair and a theme of grey in these yarns, just so you know. I feel like I'm becoming ridiculously predictable. But you may recall, if you've been around for a while, that I made a sweater out of Isolde Teague's blend number 1. I made my Branches and Buds sweater out of this grey. And then Dale of Farm to Cables sent me a couple that she had. And so I ended up with, like, this is almost a third skein, 2 of these and the leftovers. So I've been really thinking about what to make with this. When I ended up seeing this mohair by Legacy Fibers, they had beautiful mohair. It is a mohair silk blend, 72-28%. They had beautiful colors, which I'll plop in here so you can just see. When I saw this gray, I just couldn't help myself because I thought, I can pair this with the blend number 1. It's a slightly bluer gray than this, but I think it'll blend nicely and create a new slightly different gray from my Branches and Buds. And I'll either make a ranunculus or I will make another nuke, but it'll be that kind of a loosely knit layering piece that I'll wear to work with a white blouse underneath or something like that. So I was really excited about that. My main goal was to get yarn that had a purpose. So that's that. I really hope this works out. I don't see why it wouldn't, but yeah, they're a slightly different gray, but that doesn't really matter because they complement each other and they sort of modify each other, which is what happened in here. The brown mohair mink was kind of more brown, and then the WOLLMEISE lace garn was kind of a purpley gray, and then it created this new color. So this will create a new kind of gray in between those two. So this was a lovely, lovely purchase. I was very happy to get that. I just think it's stunning, and I will be making one of those 2 sweaters out of it. I really enjoyed knitting the ranunculus, so we'll see if that's what ends up happening. So that was really my Friday night purchase, and that felt really good. The next day was Rhinebeck, and that day was really the day of socializing more than shopping. However, I did end up buying some more gray mohair. It's the only thing I bought that day. It was from a stand called Scandinavian Weave and Knit, and she had a really interesting selection of yarns, and she had this variegated grays. Each one has 327 yards of bulky yarn, And this was probably the one purchase where I saw it in the morning, and then at the end of the day I was like, I want to go back and just see if I'm still in love with this, and I just bought it without much of a plan. But it will be some sort of layering piece, either like a poncho or a nuke type of thing. I'm suspecting I'm going towards poncho, but it was just so beautiful. And it is a blend of yarns containing wool, mohair, and then there's a bit of nylon, a bit of acrylic, and a bit of silk. So it's kind of a strange blend. I have to be honest, it's probably a good thing that I didn't see the acrylic, because I may not have bought it. But I think it's going to be a really wonderful yarn to work with, and I love the variegations that are in it. And it's called Shades of Grey. There was a lot of mohair at Rhinebeck this year. I have to say, a lot of stands had mohair, which you would not have seen a couple of years ago. This person had a lot of mohair. Legacy Fiber Arts had mohair. Viola Emily had mohair. I actually never saw her stand, which is probably a good thing. There were just a lot of stands that had some mohair now. There has been some talk about the unethical raising of mohair goats, so I think that's something to keep in mind, and something that I need to become a little bit more aware of as a mohair lover. So more and more I'm trying to think about that, but I have to say it's not an automatic response to ask that question, and I just need to get better at asking it. And on Saturday was also the podcaster meetup, which was really great fun. And you will have some footage of all of these things at the end. I put some footage of the venues at Rhinebeck, the podcaster meetup, apple cider donuts, some of the animals as well, beautiful sheep and goat and llamas. I met a llama. We had a little moment together, which was really wonderful. So anyway, it was Saturday was a very social day, primarily, as I mentioned earlier, and podcaster meetup was wonderful. Meeting people who watch the podcast. Hello to you. And it was really, really nice to meet people. And I do this every time I go to a podcaster meetup. I think I'm going to remember everybody's names, and I am completely, kind of overwhelmed with everybody and saying hello to everybody, that of course it kind of goes right through one ear and out the other. So and I wouldn't want to single anybody out, but hello to everybody. It was especially fun, I have to say, to meet a couple who watch the podcast together, and I just thought that was really, really sweet. So hello, I believe you're in Michigan. And hello to everybody else as well. And to meet other podcasters, it was really great to say hello to some that I've never had a chance to meet, and others that I was seeing again. So it was great. It was great. And there were some little gifts that came along the way, some pins and stitch markers and teas and chocolates, which was really nice. A woman named Mandy Pinecone, this has got kind of squish, made this wonderful paper pumpkin that's full of minis inside and some tea. I think there may have been chocolate. Was there a chocolate? I think it's gone. But that was really nice. Thank you, Mandy. And my friend Lori, who is into it knit, gave this wonderful mug, which is such a beautiful size actually, and already enjoyed using it. And this was made not by her son, but at a center that her, sort of like a community type center that her son frequents. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful color, kind of a honey color. So thank you, Lori. And then, as I said, there were buttons and stitch markers. Treehouse Knits, who is a podcaster, gave this wonderful pumpkin Halloweeny stitch marker, which I should just get out and use because Halloween is this week. And Jen, the uncreative crafter, gave this lovely, lovely stitch marker as well. So there were lots of wonderful hugs and hellos, and it was really, really lovely. I was going to show you, I got some pins, although I know that a couple are missing, that I put on the other side of the BOOKHOU bag from different podcasters. This is from a friend, Jan, who gave us these wonderful pretzels. And this is from Caw Creations, who's Cheryl. She actually, I believe, she donated a present, or a prize rather, for the last Garment Galore Cal. Bebop and Pop It as well. And the Tangled Skein. The Wayward Skein is missing. I don't know where that went, Lynn. And Sarah Nova Crafts and Hawthorn Cottage Crafts. So there's some of the things that came, little things that came my way, which was really, really fun. And then on the last day, the Sunday, I bought a couple more things. First, I bought for the podcast a skein of the Himalayan Summit that I used to make my fingerless gloves that I mentioned earlier, in this stunning sort of peacock blue color. It's coming on a little bit brighter on screen than it is. So I'm going to save this for a prize for another time. But this is this beautiful yak and merino, so I thought somebody should get a chance to try this. So I got that and had a lovely chat with Carl at Bijou Basin. And then the other yarn that I bought, guess what? It's gray. I wanted to go to the stall last year and ended up being sick on the second day, so I never got there. But you may recall last year I made a vest. I'll pull up a picture here. A two-tone vest with the yarn from Persimmon Tree Farms. The Persimmon Tree Farms is, it's a funny looking stand, I'm going to be honest. Most of the yarn is really bright and almost garish. There's a lot of boucle and a lot of mohair. And she actually was selling a 100% mohair yarn. I had no reason to buy it though, so I didn't buy it. But she also has some imported alpaca that I used to make that vest. And honestly, that alpaca is probably one of the most beautiful yarns that I've ever worked with. I love that vest. It has worn, and I've worn it a lot. It has worn very well. It's barely pilled. I don't think that alpaca pills in quite the same way that wool does, or sheep's wool does. And I decided when I was thinking about the knits that I'm going to make this winter and what I need in my wardrobe, that I really need some cardigans. And I tend to not make cardigans very much. I tend to make sweaters and layering pieces. So I thought I'd really like to have a gray cardigan. I have one gray cardigan that I made, but it's actually a long cardigan, so it's not something just for every day. I can't wear it under a short coat, for example. So I thought I'd like to buy some gray, and I resolved to buy some more of the alpaca from Persimmon Tree Farms. I thought I need to work with their yarn one more time. So each skein is 660 yards. And it was actually on, they had it as a special this time. She said that she chooses a yarn here and there to put on special, and so it was actually at a better price point. And I bought this light gray to make, you know, I might make the Stockbridge by Isolde Teague. Not 100% sure. I think I do want something with buttons. I was thinking of just an open cardigan, but I ended up buying some buttons to go with this gray from Favor Valley Woodworking, who are in New Hampshire, and they are these deer antler buttons. And I just thought that they would be a nice addition to this cardigan. So I think I'll make something with a button band, and so I hope that this winter I will make a cardigan or two, because I have some other yarns that are cardigans, but I realized I needed a gray cardigan. So this was the other yarn purchase that I did at Rhinebeck. A couple of other things that came into my life from Melissa Jean. She's been at Rhinebeck for years, and I bought buttons from her before. I just got these two mitten buttons. I thought they could be a nice accent on a hat or something like that, or even, you know, just sewn on to a sweater. So I got those. And then I kind of went a little soap crazy. I forgot to show you from Needles Up. I got 2 bars of Tuft Woolens in their wool wash soap. which is an undyed version essentially of their hand wash soap. And I got their Plum and Amber, which I just love, as well as their 5th and 57th, which was part of their Tiffany collection, which is also very nice. And I bought that for washing wool, but I also got, which I put all the way over here, I buy every year except last year because I was not there to shop on the Sunday. I buy soap from Sockhill Farms. And I use their soap every year and I really like it. It's handmade at the Sockhill Farm, so I bought fennel and peppermint and eucalyptus. Now, 4 years ago when I first started going to Rhinebeck, it was their first year and they had just landed a booth at Rhinebeck in one of the barns. And at the time I didn't realize it, but she also had a very small quantity of yarn. Over time, the yarn and soap ratio has changed, and now she has a smaller quantity of soap and a larger quantity of yarn. And I had already bought this. Otherwise, I would have gotten some gray yarn from her. Her yarn collection was really very beautiful. She was next to A Wing and a Prayer, which also had lovely, lovely yarn. So I have made note for the next time I go to Rhinebeck. I'm not sure if I'll be going next year, but perhaps the year after, to get some yarn from Sockhill. Other yarn that I really wanted to get but opted not to was yarn from the Harrisville Tweed booth. I have bought Harrisville Tweed before. I made a sweater for Alejandro. And I wanted to get some of their Peace Fleece in the sport weight, also to make a cardigan. But they didn't have their full range of colors, and the colors that they had weren't completely speaking to me. So I thought that's okay. I won't get that now, but I'll be looking out for that next time. I think that was it for Rhinebeck. Kate had made us, and our friend Holly had made us bags, and I'm just realizing that I'd also gotten, I'll wear it the next time, one of those leather bracelets that are also a measuring tape that Crystal had given me, and she gave each of us one. Kate had made this great bag with sheep, and Holly had made us bags as well, which is great. It's a Christmas bag. So if I cast on a Christmas project this year, it'll be going in this bag. So thank you guys. And if that wasn't enough, before going to Rhinebeck, I had ordered a bag from Sandy by the lakeside in this flashy limey green color. I had seen hers and I just loved it. So I ended up partaking and saying, I think I need one of those. So she ended up making this for me because the original ones, the waves went in this way. And we agreed that we would do it in this direction to make it work because she didn't have enough fabric left. But it's such a beautifully made bag. So I have, my goodness, I think that might be it for haul. So yeah, so the second day when we went to Rhinebeck, it was lovely. It was colder. This year it was nice to be able to wear knits, and we had some apple cider donuts, which was great fun. Talked to some more people. I have to say, the apple cider donut line somehow just is fun. You end up standing in line for a long time, but you always end up chatting with people, so it's great fun. And yeah, it was a really, really lovely trip, and it was really nice staying in Kingston. We had some wonderful food at a pub called The Anchor. We found a great breakfast place just down the street from our house where we were staying, and it was just a really, really nice trip. We went to Woodstock, but we, again, like last year, didn't get there quite in time to do any real shopping in Woodstock beyond buying tea at the tea shop. We got there about 8 minutes before it closed, but we had dinner at Joshua's with Lynn of the Wayward Skein and Sue of the Tangled Skein. We didn't get to see some of the other people that we would have liked to see more of. There are people who are on the hill that I didn't even see them, and I'm kind of blown away, like Sarah the Canadian Knitter. I didn't see her at all, and she was there. Apparently Kristen Vullenvine was there. Didn't see her either, so it was kind of a bit of a funny experience that way. And so hopefully 2 years from now there'll be another opportunity to see people and chat. Podcaster meetup is so much fun. The only thing is that you just don't have a whole lot of time to really talk with a lot of people. So I found myself saying hello to people and then seeing somebody else that wanted to say hello or I wanted to say hello to. But I did take the time to get some good footage, so I will share that with you at the end. And I think that's it. Life has been, getting back to normal, which is good. I have actually been off and I'm returning to work on Monday, so I'm looking forward to getting back into the routine of life and leaving this last phase of my life behind for a little bit. Rhinebeck was a wonderful, wonderful beginning to... Somebody actually said, Rhinebeck is like New Year's. We should start everything at Rhinebeck. And I thought, Rhinebeck is a new year. So there you go. So yeah, and I think that's it, friends. I'll share, some of the other types of things with you next time. But I think that I have come to the end of everything that I wanted to share with you. I'm looking around because it feels like I just kind of zipped through things, but hopefully it didn't feel too whirlwindy for you, just for me. Anyway, take care, and hopefully I'll be podcasting again in about 3 weeks' time when I've got something lovely to share with you. Take care until then. Happy crafting, and all the best to you. Bye-bye.